Okay, so it seems like you play support mostly. So I just picked a game, your most recent game where you did fine. Seems like you got pretty carried this game by your Arc Warden, which is pretty typical of an Arc Warden game. Just closing my Firefox windows. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at sort of like where you decide to go on the map and where I think you should be going, as well as like laning and most likely your usage of serpent wards, where you should be trying to use them and when. Okay, there it goes. Okay, so already your item and skill build is off. When I'm playing 5 position support, I always get um, I always get 2 tangos, a salve, 2 observer wards, and a courier. And then from there, you have enough gold for a sentry if you think you're going to need it. Like if there's going to be an invis hero in your lane, you'll probably want to buy that sentry. Otherwise, I get a mango. Sometimes a clarity, if it's okay for me to be sitting back and just sort of using clarity and casting spells from fog. But otherwise, I go that item build every game, and I go the 2 tangos because you always give your mid laner 2 tangos to start off with, and that leaves you with 4 left, which is going to be enough to sustain you early on. I get the salve to help out my carry and use the salve on them. Sometimes I'll use it on myself, other times not. I never buy fairy fires though. But always always give your mid laner 2 tangos before the game actually starts, and yeah, give your mid laner 2 tangos before the game actually starts, and if your off lane can benefit from a ward, well, just give your offlaners a ward. It looks like you did that already, but this triple fairy fire isn't going to really outweigh the cost of what you're giving up by not going more regen. Also, I go Ether Shock level 1, the vast majority of the time, it's a lot of damage, 140. It's an okay cast range, so if somebody walks up to the lane and they get within your cast range, you just use it on them. Shackles are good if you can get a kill with your carry, which might happen and might not on this Arc Warden. This laning is different than I expected. I guess this Arc Warden's actually your carry. I thought he was going mid. Alright. My point still stands for the region, for the starting item situation though. So, in the past, Shadow Shaman, the way he would get played is in a tri-lane. He would try to walk up from fog and get the shackles off, and they would go for a kill. But now, when dual lanes are more common, and tri-lanes are sort of the rare thing that happens, you can just go Ether Shock and just sit in the creeps and deny with your really high base damage. And you can sit in the creeps because you get a lot of regen. And also, the denies are much more important than they were before. Like a year, or I don't know. I don't know how long it's been at this point. Since 707. Okay, so it's good that you're going for a pull here. But you could have just been in lane, using Ether Shock on this Bristleback and denying down the creeps to keep the creeps back, instead of going for this pull. And you would be getting experience, and this Bristleback would have much less HP. And you could also buy yourself a magic stick, start getting up those charges. So, you definitely should be in this lane right now. And it's okay to pull, but you gotta know when it's not necessarily going to be the best idea. Like, for instance, are the enemy heroes prone to pushing the lane when they use their spells? Bristleback, he's got Quill Spray. That's going to push the lane when he uses it. Can your carry hero last hit under the tower in the first place? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. For the most part, melee heroes with a Stout Shield and a Quelling Blade aren't going to be nearly as bothered by tanking creeps under the tower, but a 2-armor ranged hero probably is going to be bothered by it. Another thing, sometimes you do have to make that pull just so your carry can get anything out of the lane. Sometimes if it's pushed up too far, it's just impossible, and they're just going to get denied every time. But that's not the case in this lane. So personally, I wouldn't have pulled here. And also, when you do a pull like this, it's called a single pull, meaning you didn't stack the small camp, or you didn't take the large camp over and pull through. So these creeps are still going to live, but since these creeps under your tower, they're going to die. So when you make a pull like this, what ends up happening is you're actually pushing the lane. Yeah, so you just haven't been laning yet in this game, and you should have been laning the whole time. And to be fair, it hasn't really been hurting the Arc Warden per se that much. But you're not really doing anything to this Bristleback, and you could have been. Could have been helping get denies and helping use Ether Shock on him early on. Your base damage is no joke, and while Bristleback can run you down, it's not impossible. You've got your Arc Warden to back you up. And if he goes through the creep wave, he's going to be tanking all those creeps, and he's going to be tanking right clicks from your Arc Warden and spells from your Arc Warden, as well as from you. So I think you should definitely just be playing in lane. Probably the whole time. If you're in lane, you can ensure that pretty much every last hit and deny gets had by your side because it's 2v1. Now, I'm not going to say that every single hero, it's impossible for them to lane against 2v1 against every single configuration, but Bristleback can't lane 2v1. He can lane 2v2, or 1v2 I mean. He can lane 2v2, he can lane 1v1, but 2v1, he just sort of, he's too weak early on. If you use up all your mana, if you use up your mana and some of your regen to harass him down, you're going to get him to use up his regen pretty quickly. You'll also be getting wand charges out of it. Just like level 1 and 2, it's very favorable to trade with this Bristleback. And you were just sort of stacking and pulling the whole time. Which you didn't have to do. Okay, so you're continuing to stack various camps, but what I'm missing here is which hero is going to take these stacks. And like Phantom Assassin doesn't have AoE creep clear until she has Battle Fury. Arc Warden doesn't have AoE creep clear until he has Maelstrom. Like, these are some big items, so these early stacks, I would argue, are actually a detriment, considering you don't really have a hero that can take them quickly and efficiently. Which brings me back to a better, in my opinion, a better use of your time, which would be just laning and helping out your Arc Warden. And you don't have to stay static in your lane. You can have a TP ready, you can go into the fog, and if they're diving a tower elsewhere, you can be ready to TP to it. But otherwise, it's perfectly fine for you to just sit in lane and, you know, deny your creeps and right-click the Bristleback when he comes up. and use your Ether Shock. See, you guys won the lane, like, you guys won this lane, I think. But if you were laning instead of stacking and pulling, mostly stacking, then this bristleback would be run out of lane, and this Arc Warden would have more farm, and you would have more experience. Arc Warden would have slightly less experience, but that's not a big deal. Like, this wouldn't happen if you were just laning. This shouldn't be allowed to happen. And you would have level 6 by now. Like, there's sort of a myth in Dota that a 5-position support should be out of lane as much as possible, giving their carry as much solo XP as they possibly can. And that may have been true in the past. But right now, it's 100% false. So, at this point in the game, just by virtue of you laning and helping out your carry in lane, meaning just being on top of the creeps, you don't need to be sitting off to the side or anything, or in the fog or anything like that. Just stand on the creep wave. As Shadow Shaman in a dual lane, that's actually your biggest strength, because you have decent stats, level 1, and you've got like almost 80 base damage without any items. So this particular fight worked out, but you could have been like level 7 and threatening this tower with this play, I think. I mean, they continue to bring heroes. This is... like, this lane was eventually going to end up like this. But maybe a bit later, maybe Bristleback would be 0 and 1 or something instead of 3-0. What's my time at? 18 minutes? Okay. Alright, so at this point, I don't know if the tome has been used or not. You should be looking to get your level 6 and looking to use your ult either to get a kill, a valuable kill on their core, or get a kill on somebody less important, and then use it to do damage to a tower afterwards. It's easiest to do down here. Get a smoke. Smoke up with your team. Have somebody push in this wave. Or do it when the wave is pushed in. And then dive this tower. And use your wards. You can use your wards to get damage on a hero and on a tower at the same time. They're really committing down here though. But you definitely either want to do that mid or bot, and bot's just easier because you have multiple angles of attack here. You can try to rally your team. If they're not really doing it, you can just sort of try to push out waves that your team isn't pushing out. Like here on mid, you could be getting this farm in XP. From now on, I just want to give you like more general advice, just because this game would look a lot different if you were laning instead of stacking. So if a wave is pushed in, like it is on mid, and one of your cores isn't going for it, you should go for it. You should identify which objective is going to be the one that you want to go to next because it's easiest. And in this case, it's going to be this bottom tier 1 because it's the most vulnerable tower as far as ease of getting behind it and number of angles of attack that are viable. Just take my word for it. So what you want to be doing in these games is like a mixture of pushing out lanes when they get pushed in, if your team isn't doing it, as well as trying to get wards in such a position where it's going to help you get an objective. If you have a hero that's sort of just farming jungle, it's okay to give them sort of a safety ward, but you don't need 2 of them. Just 1 is fine. I would put it not even like right here or here, I would just put it here so you can also see the bounty rune and see like this sort of area, that because this is where they're going to be coming, besides just the lane. So at this point in the game as Dire, you'd want to try to get wards around this area so you can put pressure on this tower. And if your Arc Warden is farming your own jungle, it's okay to just put down like 1 ward to help protect him. But try to buy smokes and use those to get like a couple things done at once, which could be a ward plus a gank plus getting some damage on this tower. Try to do like all that at once with the smoke. You can try to communicate with your team and tell them to help you with this. Hey, I've got wards, let's push. You don't have to be completely explicit with the directions. Most of them will probably, like, once you smoke them and you ping, then they'll sort of know what to do. But you need to try to get some direction going in your team, because you should have been applying some pressure with your ult a long time ago. Alright, I'll leave it off for now, and let me know if you have any questions about this video. You can message me on Discord. So, to recap, just as 5 position support, I think you should be laning this patch and try to identify what the easiest tower to take is and smoke towards there with your ult on Shadow Shaman. Try to get some wards down at the same time. Try to get a kill under the tower. Like a really good move for you to make is smoke, ward, put your wards down, dive the tower, get a kill, and get tower damage with one usage of wards. That kind of move a lot of times will just result in this tier 1 tower bottom dying. So like at this point, the result of the game is pretty much out of your hands, which is why I'm stopping here. But thanks for watching.